Hi guys, today we are talking about the Sigma FP, a camera that would have blown minds just 3 years ago with its specs. We're talking about a camera that's almost not thicker than a deck of cards, that has a full frame sensor and shoots 12-bit Full HD 60 FPS internally onto SD cards. So let's check it out, shall we? If you have watched the concept video for the Sigma FP, you know that modularity is the name of the game with this camera. At its core, it's basically a full frame sensor with a big heatsink slapped onto it, some buttons and dials thrown in there for good measure, and you got yourself a camera. The FP intrigued me in a way that no other camera or video product has done since probably I first saw the DJI Inspire RAW with the Osmo handle. I got super excited when I saw the early concepts of this camera. So let's take a closer look and try to make sense of this public beta camera released by Sigma and what it's for and maybe whom it's for. So what first got me very excited about the FP was, of course, the form factor. You can stick this easily on a drone. You could probably even build an FPV drone and get some insane shots with that. You can stick it on a cable cam. Basically, the sky is the limit. Excuse my pun, but you get what I mean. Then there's the promise of not having to sacrifice image sensor size or image quality for pocket ability. I mean, if you put on the right lens on this one, you could easily fit it in your pants pocket if you have a bit bigger size pants pocket. Let's take a closer look at the body itself. Now, it is extremely bare bones, but then again, that's kind of the point. When you first get the FP in your hands, you will probably be pleasantly surprised by the build quality. It is made from die-cast aluminum, and according to Sigma, it's both splash and dust proof, which means that you can take it out in some challenging situations, which is always good. Sigma has done some smart, innovative stuff with this camera. They have put 1/4-inch screws on each side of the camera body where you would normally have your shoulder strap, so that you can third-party manufacturers can build cages that would suit different user needs. That is really smart. I really like the modularity thinking with the FP. On the back you will find the big LCD touchscreen, which unfortunately is not tiltable. Probably the best thing that Sigma did for us hybrid shooters is that it has 2 completely separate modes for videos and stills with isolated settings. On the front of the camera you will find the new L mount, which is a joint venture by Panasonic, Sigma and Leica, and if memory serves me right, it has the second shortest flange distance. Only Nikon with its C-series has a shorter flange distance. What that means is basically that you can put any lens on the FP if you're using an adapter, as long as you're not using other mirrorless lenses. On the side we got a USB-C port, an HDMI out and a microphone in. Sigma unfortunately here went the smartphone route and excluded a headphone jack, which I think is a bit unfortunate. Next up we have usability and ergonomics. Now, the FP was very easy to pick up and start using right away. I didn't necessarily ran into any problems or like weird UI decisions. I think that this is a camera that is all in all very well thought out. You get access to most of the settings you need with this QS button you see right here, and then you can easily dial in the settings that you use the most, like aperture, ISO, video compression, and so on and so forth. You also have this weird tone button that in the beginning I thought that this is a completely waste of space, but then I realized something, that if you put on a black and white profile on this, that will only be on the monitor side, since this camera shoots RAW in both stills and video. And if you have a black and white screen, it's much easier to compose for a black and white photo. But then again, when you take your images into your post workflow, you still have all that color information retained. So if you want to use color in those images, you still have the option to do so, which I think is great. Okay, so let's talk picture quality, and boy howdy is this a mixed bag. When you're shooting in the compressed modes, even though you get a high 400 megabit bit rate, you still only get 420 compression, and that at an 8-bit bit rate. And I simply think that it doesn't look very good. Other cameras do a lot better job in the compressed codec department than the FP does. But then when you switch to Cinema DNG, you get a completely different camera. And I think that the quality that you get when you shoot raw video with the FP, considering the form factor, is simply spectacular. The fact that you can record full HD 60 FPS 12-bit RAW onto SD cards, that is for me mind-blowing, just how far we've gotten with this. And if you then use an external drive with the USB-C port, you can get up to 4K 24 frames a second. So here are a few more example shots, and all these are done with the FP using the kit lens that is a 45mm 2.8 lens, usually shot wide open. As for quality of stills, I don't think that it's on par with my Nikon C6. It's more equivalent to my old 5D Mark III. This FP has a dynamic range of about 12.5 stop, which is on par with the Blackmagic Pocket, but less than the top tier mirrorless cameras, which have 14 plus. Alright, so let's circle back a bit and talk about whom this camera actually is for, or maybe whom it's not for. I don't think that you should buy this camera if it's gonna be your only camera. There are a lot better options for that, like the A7 III or Panasonic's S1, or my personal camera of choice, the Nikon C6, because they are better in ergonomics, internal codecs, all that jazz. But I actually put my money where my mouth is, and I've ordered the FP, because for me it's a great second camera. It works perfectly on gimbals thanks to its small size, and that you can shoot raw internally on SD cards, so you don't get a lot of cable clutter when you're using it on a gimbal or on a slider. And what I love most about the FP is that the small form factor just invites you to be more creative, try more stuff, and you're more likely to just bring the camera to more situations because it's so easy to put in your pocket, and that will get you shooting more, and at the end of the day be more creative. And that is just a super big win, at least for me. So what do I think could be improved with the FP? Well, there are a couple of things. I think I would have liked to see a bigger HDMI port. That micro HDMI port is just so fiddly. I really don't like that. I also would have liked the ability to run the FP off of power banks when I'm shooting internally on SD cards. You can charge it while it's off, but you can't run it off USB-C power. Sigma does do a battery dummy, so they only get half a point off for that. Since the camera has Wi-Fi, but for some reason there's no app that you can use with the camera, that is something that I would really like to see in the future. An app where you can control the camera and also get live view would have been super useful. Sigma, get on that maybe? What I also like with FP is just Sigma's attitude to this camera. You can sort of tell that it's public beta in that users will suggest feature updates like a log profile or RAW over HDMI, and Sigma's attitude have been like, sure, if we can make it work, we'll make it work and then we'll implement it in a future firmware update. And so far Sigma seemed to be delivering on both a log profile and RAW over HDMI. And that is something that I really like, that the manufacturers are catering to their customers and providing them with more value even after you bought the product. So good on you, Sigma, for doing that. But that is it for now for the FP. I will probably do a comparison when the RAW update comes out to the C6. So I will do a mirrorless RAW video shootout. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a comment down below, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.